Hi everyone, welcome back to Harry Makes It Up. Today I thought I would play with some makeup. I have some of the new Lisa Elderidge liquid lyrics, I think they're called, the eye goodies. And I thought I would do my makeup while I share a story with you about how I got fired from my first makeup counter job. Because I think there's a lot of people who start off as creatives who currently right now maybe working a counter job who feel like so far away from the thing they actually want to be doing. And I just wanted to give a heads up and say, hey, I've been there, I've been where you are. There were lots of things I loved about my counter job. I'm going to start doing my makeup while we chat. I'm going to start with some Photo Finish Primerizer from Smashbox. I have to say I'm obsessed with this stuff. Like, it was one of those things that I knew when I was starting out as a makeup artist was super helpful because it helped me work on different skin tones. Obviously it helped me work with all different ages, and it was a great way to practice doing my craft and being really good at my craft. I won't name the brand or the store I worked for, but it's safe to say I was really bad at selling. I actually think I'm really good at selling today. I think it's one of those things that when I look back, I didn't like selling because I didn't believe in what I was selling. And I think that's a really important story for like anyone who's a creative. A really important thing to realize is it does matter what you're selling and what you stand for. Primerizer on, let's do, maybe I'll do a different base actually today. I might do Giorgio Armani Neo Nude Skin. I still love this as well. I feel like when I worked on a counter, like I said, it was a way for me to pay my bills while I was working as a makeup artist when I was starting out. There were lots of benefits, but I also, like I said, I was very, very bad at selling. So I can't remember what year it was that I was working at the makeup counter, but I specifically remember the woman who owned the department store would sometimes come in, or she was like one of the big bosses. And I remember my first day, like I still remember my first day at this counter job, and a woman had come up to ask me, which area is lingerie? And obviously I was new, so I was like, oh, I don't know, let me just check for you. Let me just have a look at the board. I took her to the board where it shows all the things. The woman who owned the department store saw me doing this and came up to me. And I remember her words so specifically. She wore sunglasses the whole time indoors, which that was interesting. It's very like Anna Wintour vibes. And she said to me, that was very poorly executed. I remember thinking, yeah, I really don't want to be here. And it's funny because I think it was about that time that I started actually making content. When I look back, it was when I first started thinking like, I want to do a YouTube channel. I want to do something that means I can get out of being in having to work this counter job while I assist as a makeup artist in London. So I very much did it when I was like starting out in my career. So that was my first experience of working on a counter, was the the lack of respect for employees, especially on their first day. But yes, I had this counter job for, I think I probably worked there. I had this and a job in a shoe shop. That was the other thing I did. Let me think what we're doing next. So I use shade Neo Nude in shade 5. Okay, that is base on. It's very nice and glowy. I feel like it makes my skin look really good. I'm gonna start doing some brows with the Hourglass brow pencil. So yeah, coming back to this idea of selling and being really bad at selling, like I said, as a makeup artist that worked for this particular brand, which I shall not mention, the reason I was bad at selling was because as a makeup artist, I would be like, oh, our primer's really great, but the brush from over there is better. You need the brush from Shu Uemura. You need this thing from Laura Mercier. Like I would be sort of like touting all the other brands they should go to as well as ours. I remember thinking like, okay, yeah, I get why I'm not very good at this. I'm supposed to be making this counter a lot of money. I always put the customer first. Like I was always thinking like what would actually genuinely help the customer. And I think that's a skill that a lot of people who work on a counter are really, really good at. Especially if they're not the people who are getting like the highest accolades for making the most money for the brand. It's probably because they care more about the customer and what actually benefits the customer versus the brand they work for. I was assisting in London. I was barely making any money. So my counter job was, I thought, a really good way to like sort of perfect my craft and spend time there. But like I said, I always had the customer in mind. Like the customer was always sort of my priority. Things were pretty tough. I had been living in a room I couldn't stand up in. A lot of people know this story. If you don't, check out Freelance for Freedom. I will, or I'll put a picture of it here so that you can see where I was living while I was trying to become a makeup artist. And things were really, really tough. Like my mental health was definitely at an all-time low back then. Like, I remember just coming home and being like, this is so soul destroying, I don't want this. I'm getting judged on how much I sell versus how good I make people feel, or again, like seeing my skills improve as a makeup artist. That was definitely hard. And I always look back and I think I was making someone else rich. That was the hardest thing about working, or not rich because I wasn't the best at selling, let's be real. But there was definitely an awareness of that. There was awareness of like, oh, I'm making somebody else money versus spending time focusing on my own career. And there did come a point where freelancing, I was doing it, it was harder to work on my own book when I had to be at the counter. So there was definitely a lot of give and take, like working any chance I could. Got to be brows and edges, so good. We love a little bit of that to make the brows fluffy. Safe to say, after a few months of working there, my sales weren't that great. They were definitely like, I think they had like a 3 strike and you're out type rule, where it was like, hey, you need to be selling the brush with the foundation and the da-da-da-da-da, which I was never gonna do. I was like, yeah, if I actually thought our brushes were as good as every other brands, I would, but they're not. I'm doing a bit of Shiseido concealer. We'll come to the spot in a minute, but I need to make sure I come a little bit closer. They brought me into the room and were like, oh, we're gonna have to let you go. They were like, oh, it's kind of like first in, first out at the moment. Sorry, last in, last out. We need to let go of somebody. And I remember there was a girl that had started later than me, so I was like, would that not be? And I said her name and they were like, no, it's you. And then I think I remember them being like, I remember them trying to have chats with me throughout my time of working there, being like, so we need to talk about your numbers. We need to talk about you making more money. Me just being like, yep, totally hear you, but never doing it. Never being like, yeah, I'm gonna take that on board. So yeah, I remember that conversation several times where they'd be like, oh, we need to talk about the fact that like you're not making money. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. Safe to say, nothing ever really changed. But I feel like that conversation, when they actually did say like, hey, you're not making us enough money, we're gonna let you go, there was something very freeing about being like, okay, now I have to do it. Like now I have to truly work on my book and put myself out there. This is the Lisa Elderidge one I'm going to use. This is the shade Titania, I think it's called. There was something very freeing about being like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm actually going to go on my own and have a go at this thing called freelancing. And keep in mind, I'd done assisting, I'd been doing lots of things. And to be honest, I think I'd got to a point where the counter job I was having to do, because I'd assisted so much, there was like nothing left. I was like, okay, I have to earn some money. And I was still taking opportunities as and when they came up, but I'd started to shift my mindset into, I need to create my own opportunities. First of all, how gorgeous is this color? Very easy to blend as well. Beautiful. I love the way it's kind of like an oil on water finish. I might even take a little bit of that under the lash line as well. But yes, there was definitely a feeling of, okay, I have to stop waiting now for my chance or to get into the big teams. I made a very conscious effort to be like, I'm gonna make sure that I am meeting people who want the same things as me. I'm gonna go and find people who want to be the next big team and start kind of meeting with them. But to cut a long story short about the counter, it was because I was rubbish at selling. And like I said, it was selling something that I didn't believe people need, or I didn't believe was the best product. Like that's what I learned, that there was only so long I could do that for. And I really do take my hat off to people that work on counters, because especially when you've got people coming in being like, hey, I want a free makeover, and you just spend an hour doing makeup on me, but then they don't want to buy anything. Oof, that's hard, especially when your like line manager is like, you can feel their eyes in your back being like, sell everything, sell everything. So I remember that feeling very well, that feeling of like, okay, I'm now supposed to make a certain amount from this person sat here, when maybe they're just having a bad day, maybe they just need someone to talk to, maybe makeup feels really intimidating to them and they're here to like learn. Let me just take a moment to appreciate how pretty these colors are. I hope it's coming up on camera because I know I'm using natural light, but it definitely has a kind of like a bronzy, it's quite a neutral bronzy. There's like a hint of khaki in it, which I quite like. I'm gonna take that underneath the lash line as well. Got fired from my counter job. Secretly was very relieved. I was like, okay, I don't have to go back to that place anymore. Especially because the woman with the sunglasses who owned the shop would come back in and she would always give me like the evil eye. She would come into the store. I was like, I can feel her eyes on me. And what was the one good thing about working there sometimes was like every now and then I'd see like a big makeup artist come into the store to come buy something, or, you know, be looking around the beauty department, and I'd be like, oh, one day I'm gonna be a makeup artist. I'm gonna be the person shopping at this counter, like no expense spared. I'm gonna be that person. Oh, that is so good. Okay, we've gone under the lash line now as well. I am really enjoying these eyeshadows. I do feel like, by the way, when I do concealer first, I then tend to prefer to opt for an eyeshadow like this if I'm doing concealer first. So I'm just gonna go back in with the brush and just assess the buffing. Let's assess where we're buffing. I might even take my finger, just soften the edge a little bit now the brush is dry. Okay, I've talked about this before, the Milk Makeup Outer Space. This one is the long wear eyeliner, and it's so good for in the waterline. Like, it literally doesn't transfer. So I'm gonna take this in the top waterline right now. But yeah, I remember getting fired from the counter job and being like, part of me was terrified because I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna pay my bills? I think it was actually around that time where, because I'd spent so much time on my book and actually like retesting, like that means you do like, call it test for print. So you shoot images for free with other makeup artists, other hairstylists, photographers, stylists, people that want to build their book. I became very, very intentional around what I did do if I was working for free. But I feel like one thing that helped me a lot back then was, I remember selling so many of my things on eBay. I remember, like, to survive, I remember like I got really good at charity shopping. I'd always been pretty good at that, and I'd find like Chanel shoes and like sell them on eBay. I remember finding like a pair of Ray-Bans and selling those on eBay. Yeah, I just got really good at sourcing like vintage or designer items and being like, right, okay, where can I sell them? This is gonna pay my rent. This is gonna mean that I can do test shoots. Because at that point as well, I was kind of over assisting. I was at a point where I was like, I don't want to assist anymore. I don't want to work for free. And I think what happens for a lot of creatives, especially makeup artists and hair artists, is you spend so much time when you assist working with someone else and for someone else. Like, you become more of like a lifestyle assistant, not just a work assistant, that you don't have anything in your own book. And there does come a point where you're like, okay, how long am I going to wait until I am doing the stuff I need to do in my own book? And that was it for me. That was a big part of being like, right, okay, enough now. It's my time. I'm gonna add in this shade from Lisa Elderidge. This is Viola. And this is such a pretty, can we see? It's like a reddy, again, it's kind of like a sludgy red, which I quite like. It's not like super obvious. And I think I did this recently on stories and I loved it. I did a little bit of this into the lash line so that the khaki and the red kind of bleed into each other. So if you can see, I'm doing that there, but I am going to take the same brush that I blended with. I'm just going to soften the edge. It's really like kind of like a nice whipped formula with these, because I just want like that hint of the burgundy. Okay, so I'm just going to smudge that again. Now we've got a little bit of the reddy burgundy. Just like, it still is going to be kind of like there as a separate color, but I just want it to bleed in ever so slightly because I do think it's such a pretty color. So I'm gonna do some lash curling and mascara. Like I said, I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to assist anymore because I'm not making money, and I'm just, again, I was helping other people build their book. And I did learn a lot from assisting. Strangely enough, I feel like what I did learn was more life skills and the insight to the industry versus, like, I think one of the biggest misconceptions throughout cosmetics mascara is that when you assist, you're suddenly like, that person you assist is going to take you with them to the top, and like that'll be it. And I don't think that's the case for a lot of artists. I think for a lot of artists, that is the lie we're sold, is like, oh, you assist someone, they kind of like have the power to make or break your career. And that was definitely a narrative that was pushed on me from assisting, was like, oh, the people I assisted had so much power, whatever they say goes, like, how high do you want me to jump? Like, definitely the Devil Wears Prada film felt very apt when that came out. I was like, yeah, that kind of feels like my life. So there did come a point where I was like, okay, I'm not going to assist anymore. This is going to be about me, and it's going to be about me moving forward with the things I want to do and building my book and building from there, really. Oh, so good, so good. I'm actually going to keep the liner not on the bottom lash line. I'm just going to do some mascara onto the bottom lash line instead. And then I'm going to go back in with this Lisa Elderidge shadow, and I'm going to actually take like a more pointy brush, and I'm just going to make sure, now that I've blended it, I kind of want to make sure there's actually more of that kind of like burgundy shade really close to the lash line, just in case where my eyelash curl is, just to make sure it didn't remove any of it. I'm actually going to take that into the inner portion of the eye, just so that burgundy is a little bit more obvious, because it's such a pretty color, and I like the fact that there is that little bit of contrast between the two colors. One thing you'll know about me is I use a lot of the same products because I'm actually very much a minimalist. So I'm going to take Cosmetics So Soft, I think it's called, the stick in Earth, and we're going to do a blend. These e.l.f. brushes are incredible. If you know, you know. They're like less than, I don't know, 10 bucks. This is the buffing foundation brush, and I just love it for cream bronze. Like, it gives such a nice finish. I might add a little bit more. I like to kind of see how it's looking. Sometimes I take it a little bit closer to my nose, kind of like where the sun would naturally hit. And then I'm just going to get kind of closer up towards where my concealer was as well. I actually like it to sit quite high up when I'm trying to make my bronzer look very believable and natural. I'm loving the way the skin looks though. This is one of the reasons I love doing my base first, even if I'm going to do lots of other things to my skin, because I like to see how it's going to wear as I leave it. So we're going to do a little bit of that. I'm going to take a little bit of Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk. I want to go more kind of pinky. Do lip line. One of my favorite tricks is doing lip pencil on the bottom lip. Rather than doing it all the way across, I like to just focus it in the center on the bottom lip and then just blend it. Gives like a really natural, enlarged look without it looking unrealistic. A little bit more on the top. And again, I'm just gonna blend with my finger first. And then I'm actually gonna do Pillow Talk kind of into the lip, just so it's quite blended and soft. I'm gonna take another So Soft stick from Cosmetics. This is the shade Demure. I think it's quite a pretty kind of like deep rose tone that I'm just gonna use in here. Nice, it's actually a really similar color to what I wanna do on the lip. A little bit of that. Just gonna notice now how much dog hair I have on my t-shirt. But yeah, so that is my story of how I got fired from working on the makeup counter. And I really do think it was a big catalyst for like focusing on my own work. I'm just taking some Chanel multi-stick in Sculpting. But yeah, I really do feel like it was a big catalyst for me starting to focus on my own work, was making the decision to kind of stop assisting for free and also to really focus on my own work. Then to play with the textures, I'm going to take some Rowan Beauty liquid lip balm in the shade Lola, and I'm just going to pop this on the bottom lip and in the center on the top and pat in over the Pillow Talk. So it's like a little bit of a sheen, but not kind of super lip gloss looking. Now I do want to add a tiny bit more concealer. I'm going to use some Clé de Peau concealer just on the blemish I have here. It's kind of like a scar now. Kind of start with the coverage over it, and then I'm just going to tap around it. And this is where you might need to go back in with your blush brush and just make sure with any pigment that's on the brush, you just kind of buff everything back into place. I'm gonna do a tiny bit of powder. I'm gonna use some Westman Atelier. I really love this powder. I'm gonna take my Chanel makeup brush, powder brush even, and I'm just gonna set around here because I still want the shine kind of throughout the skin. I just want the gleam more focused on certain areas. And that is the finished look. So like I said, I just wanted to play with some of Lisa's new Liquid Lyrics eyeshadows today because they're so pretty. And Just serve a little reminder that for anyone who is looking to break into the makeup industry right now, or creatives in general, I see you, I get it. I know what it feels like to not know how long you're gonna have to keep doing the jobs you don't wanna do before you can get to the jobs you do wanna do. But come join us in Freelance with Freedom over on Instagram. The community is amazing and we will give you tools, support you in that journey to booking the clients you want to book. So even if you do get fired from working on the makeup counter like I did, it doesn't mean you can't do the things you want to do or pursue the career you want to pursue. There's room for you, there's room for all of us. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little look and little trip down memory lane. Let me know what else you would like to know about me being a makeup artist and my journey towards moving to LA from London, working on the red carpets. I want to answer all your questions. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see next, and I hope you guys enjoy this. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you for more.